Hello, Terry Lynch here, medical doctor, accredited psychotherapist, best-selling mental health author, creator of courses for mental health professionals and for the general public. In this brief video, I want to speak to a truth that I realized many years ago in my work as a psychotherapist, and that is, always look to the rightness of people's experiences and behaviours as a first step. I think that most psychologists, counsellors, psychotherapists know this, with perhaps one exception, the psychiatric diagnoses. And I've learned over the years that this truth applies to the psychiatric diagnoses as well. A major issue that pervades the vast majority of mental health systems is that people who receive psychiatric diagnoses receive predominantly medically based responses. Having worked with hundreds of people as a psychotherapist and medical doctor over a period of 25 years, I realized many years ago that that is simply wrong. The role of trauma and psychology within the psychiatric diagnoses, and that includes every single psychiatric diagnosis, including bipolar disorder and schizophrenia, for example. The role of trauma and psychology is grossly underestimated. I'm recommending to psychologists, counsellors, psychotherapists that you explore, investigate, research, study the psychiatric diagnoses in more detail. People given psychiatric diagnoses can greatly benefit from psychotherapeutic input. I know that from my own work and my research about others doing similar work, and from the experiences of people given such diagnoses. To coincide with an article that I've written for the British Association of Counselling and Psychotherapy, BACP, their Healthcare, Counselling and Psychotherapy Journal, this article will be published in the October edition of this journal. To coincide with this, I'm creating a course for therapists, psychologists, counsellors, psychotherapists, a detailed course about the psychiatric diagnoses. Such a course is long overdue. Back to the rightness of people's experiences and behaviours. That's my starting point. No matter what somebody says to me, they're experiencing or their behaviour has been, that's always my first question to myself. Where is the rightness to this behaviour? And it's always in there. For example, a number of years ago, a man sitting in front of me in his first session with me, within the first 15 minutes of being in the room, told me that the Chinese were watching him on their satellites, that the secret police told him he controlled the television, as in the television globally, and he told me that Obama and Clinton spoke to him every day and laughed through him. Most people listening to this would likely arrive at the conclusion, this man's crazy. This is nuts. While I obviously knew that what he's saying was most likely not true, I was asking myself, what's the rightness of these statements? And then it dawned on me within 10 or 15 minutes. All of these statements contained a message. And that message was, look how important I am. I'm really, really important. I'm so important that the Chinese watch me on their satellites. Will the Chinese watch unimportant people on their satellites? Of course not. I'm so important that the secret police are telling me that I control global television. What kind of person might control global television? Somebody very, very important. Would the secret police bother to talk to somebody who's not important? Of course not. I also realized within that session that there was very little going on in his actual life. In his early 30s, he lived alone, left his apartment 2 or 3 times a week to collect his disability money and to buy beer. Other than that, he spent his time in his apartment. So it struck me that perhaps he's creating this extremely rich fantasy world to compensate for the fact that his actual world is very empty. This gave me a different perspective on what he was saying and what the issue was. And I'm recommending to you as therapists to adopt that perspective. No matter what someone says to you, no matter how off track it sounds initially, if you just ask yourself the question, I wonder, is there a rightness to these statements, to this behaviour? Is there some significance? Is there a purpose, a meaning to what this person is saying or doing? The course that I'm creating on working with people with a psychiatric diagnosis, a detailed course, I expect will be ready roughly the same time as the article is published in that journal, September, October 2025. If you would like to be updated about this course and when it becomes available, message me below, comment below, and I will make sure that you are updated as to when the course becomes available. Thanks for watching and have a great day.